think I got the exposure set on auto on this camera, and it's tough. I prefer overcast days to filming. Brings out all the colors, you see everything. Sun, bright sun sucks. But anyway, you don't need to see me anyway. Who cares about me? Now, what are we gonna do here? Get some shares out. Bit of a cluster this morning. I tried loading the missing ending of that video 6 times. Simple procedure. I just about had a nervous breakdown. I was actually honestly thinking somebody was messing with my shit externally. But anyway. What I'm going to share with you today, I'm going to share a bunch. I'm going to share a tidbit from the scientists. I'll share that what I can from the conversation. We're going to start sharing some knowledge from them, and more people are going to be heard. And then I might, maybe, I've got a couple trail cameras around the river, and I brought 2 SD cards with me, so I just might go, we'll see what kind of time I've got after this, I just might go for a dip and swim over and swap the SD cards out so the cameras will stay and not skip a beat, and we'll see what I've caught on them so far. We'll see if there's been a bear around or anything. Remember last year, it was basically a guarantee, once I started filming, you guys would see a bear coming out behind me, right? How many times did that happen? But anyway, let's get into it, alright? Now, this comes from a very knowledgeable man who has emailed us in the past. Now, I'm not sure if I can share your name, I'm pretty sure I can. I'll read it first, see what happens. Steve, don't take this as criticism. I'm all good, man. Let it rip. DNA is a bitch to understand. I only know what I know because my wife is a microbiologist and she has worked in research, and DNA is something she is very knowledgeable about. First off, Melba helped Scott Carpenter considerably with his book, yet what did she get out of that? Scott, from what I've seen, does not entirely comprehend what she wrote. Well, what Melba wrote is correct. I haven't a clue what went on between them and the book. I haven't a clue. Humans have 2 kinds of DNA, mitochondrial DNA, outside of the cell nucleus, and nuclear DNA, inside the cell nucleus. It is nuclear DNA that gives us our appearance. It is passed by both parents. Both mother and father pass characteristics through nuclear DNA. It is not maternal or paternal, it is both. Mitochondrial DNA is critical for life, for cellular function, and for intracellular function between cells. It is responsible for creating cell energy as one function. It does not contain any physical characteristics of either parent. How is it passed to offspring? The mitochondrial DNA resides in both the egg cell of the mother and the sperm cell of the father. It is only passed by the mother, and here's why. In the sperm cell, the mitochondrial DNA is located in the tail of the sperm and provides the energy needed to the tail to propel the sperm to the egg. Once the egg is reached, in order to enter the egg cell, the tail is shed, and so is the father's contributing mitochondrial DNA. Because it is only passed by the mother, many refer to it as the maternal DNA. But really, the maternal DNA that passes the physical characteristics of the mother is the nuclear DNA. And the mitochondrial DNA is only passed by the mother due to the process that eliminates the father's mitochondrial DNA. Still, the maternal lineage can be traced through the mitochondrial DNA. Sasquatch only has human mitochondrial DNA, and very, very little, if any at all, human nuclear DNA. Physically, they are very different, because at the nuclear DNA level, they are not all human. They are not half human, nor are they physically related to us. They have our cellular function DNA, not our physical characteristic DNA. And guess what? Dogman has our mitochondrial DNA as well. Beginning to see a pattern here. Genetic engineering. All the animal hybrids were genetically engineered. I think the Nephilim were also genetically engineered. How else would our unique mitochondrial DNA get into their cells? Certainly, if mating was involved, they would also have some or a lack of our nuclear DNA, but they don't. Our mitochondrial DNA was spliced in. This occurred with the animal hybrids, which are three-way blends. Animal, human, mitochondrial DNA, and Nephilim. See the pattern? We are supposed to be displaced, but the corruption of the flesh, DNA, of the earth became the call for destruction, the flood. But many of the animal hybrids survived, the offspring of the Nephilim and humans. Most of the original Nephilim were destroyed. This is the real version, and the one that Melba has been trying to get out. I can tell you that the historical records agree with these assertions. I can also tell you why we don't know this today and what is behind that. I really hope this helps. Nothing is more disturbing than when we call them our brothers, when in reality, the Sasquatch just aren't. They are people, yes, but they are not humans or even half human. They have our mitochondrial DNA, and that is where it ends. Rob Duvall. Appreciate you, man. Absolutely appreciate you. That was all Chinese to me, but I get it. I would probably have to read it a few more times to really kick it around in my brain. And there you go, people. Take from it what you will or leave it, right? I absolutely appreciate you, and tell your wife you appreciate her too. This is going to be a good time to read this next, after reading that, alright? This is from our friends overseas, our scientist group. Now, I'm going to take he's passed on to me emails, clips from their conversations, and emailed to me, alright? So I'm going to try to make sense of this. Just be patient. I sent him a text asking him what a modern human could have looked like, and he simply sent this with a comment. It's a Stone Age woman characterization. One thing I do know, this has a very strong resemblance to the thing I saw. In so many ways, other than mine, was hairier. This picture depicts a female. Right there. Sent him there. Okay, the government. These other contacts were definitely employed by the government. He also shared the entire case. This is our main contact talking about his other scientist contacts, all right, who are supplying us with a pile of information because finally we scored the people who just don't give a shit what the government thinks, and they said, quote, "It's time to share what we know with the people." So here we go. He also shared, again I haven't reached that part yet, the entire subject and everything involved is known in its entirety to the American government. He believes the breakthrough was made during the Eisenhower administration. This also relates to the entire UFO subject. Yet again, as you can guess, I'm jumping between day 1 conversations and day 20. I've almost given up sticking to start, finish. I'm no secretary, but I'm sure it shows. Alright, so we've got like shit piles of data and information being organized, put into text for you guys. This is taking considerable time, alright? Steeper time difference is X amount of hours. I'm ahead of you in BC, but hey, I'd love to talk to you anytime, especially if I can clear up anything. Your service, though many may not realize it, is vitally important. I have about 25 pages transcribed and expect to reach some 300 pages. If I can't give you an easy answer, then I'll simply transcribe more. If I can't answer a question, you'll simply have to give me more time. We must, and I mean must, we must get the truth out. P.S. Why is it that if someone says they saw a Bigfoot, the first reaction is, you must have seen a bear? Yet, experts suggest it's a monkey, LOL. Alright, I hope that makes sense to you guys. Now listen, I'm going to show you this photo now. I copied it. And hopefully, maybe I can do it this way, and it saves me a pile of time on the computer, alright? It's easier. Now, what this is a drawing, an artist's rendition of what the scientists consider modern human. Okay, you guys? And that is what they think what they may have looked like. Edgar shared that that is basically similar to what he saw, only what he saw was hairier. And this right here is supposed to be female. Okay? Take note of that. So, what they have figured out is that back in the day, the modern human female's DNA was engineered, crossed with an animal. All right? And they are not arguing at all about whether or not it was animal DNA that was crossed with the modern human. Okay? Now, they also know what the species of animal is. And that species of animal is extinct. And what they are only arguing about right now is which one. Okay? That's what they have found, that's what they have figured out, beyond all question of a doubt, is that the modern human female's DNA was engineered, intentionally tampered with animal DNA. And the animal DNA that makes up today's Sasquatch, the animal side comes from an extinct predator animal. All right, now they're only trying to figure out which one. So there you go. There's a little tidbit dumped on you all to chew on for a little bit. Okay, a little tidbit as we gently step up the ladder of knowledge with the scientists and what they're dumping on us. So there you go. So what they figure is, when did the U.S. government become aware of and possibly involved with these topics, the Sasquatch topic and more? It was during, quote, the Eisenhower days. Okay, you sleuths, all you sleuths out there that are digging and digging and digging, there you go. There's probably something in there for you to go look for and concentrate on. And all you other people that are just sitting here, staring, and not doing anything for yourself behind the scenes, well, hang out a little longer, there's going to be more coming, but I strongly suggest to everybody, do your own due diligence, do your own digging. Don't be scared of anyone, and look for honest, true knowledge and share it openly, all right? Don't be scared of anyone. Okay? So there you go. Take from all that what you will or leave it. It has been shared to you today, and there's a lot more coming to be shared. There's a lot to wrap our melons around, right? I think if we were to get it all in one great big massive dump, we'd probably all freak out, hit the floor and do the worm for a couple of days and not know what to do with ourselves. Now, getting honest with voices. Forget, you guys have to look into shit. Dig, do work, get off your asses and work, work, work. Dig for the truth with me and with everybody else. Work as a team. Don't just sit there and gaze at me, all right? Dig. And there is more coming. Here's a screenshot of a comment somewhere. Sent to me, emailed to me from one of my friends. Sir, I have two 10-year-old twin boys that watch your show every time it's posted. They think you're the second greatest person to ever live. I asked them if they could pick one character trait of yours to adopt as their own. What would that be? Answer, to be able to stand up for what's right every time without being an ass about it. Just be blunt and unwavering. Thank you. As a single mom, I worry about good role models in their lives. Their names are Xander and Aiden Tyus. T-Y-U-S. Always remember those names because for forever you have made a difference in their lives, and thank you. Donna Battistoni. Sorry, I can barely read out that name. Donna, thanks for the compliment. To you young men, sorry if my language gets a little dark. Okay? Apologize to you guys. I'll admit it, I'm not ever thinking about children watching this channel. Now, I understand there's a bunch of kids out there, and in a way I'm glad they're hearing raw truth, right? So I'm shouting out to you boys, be good. Always be good, protect your mom, and protect those who can't protect themselves above all through life. All right, you guys, and never be scared of anyone or anything, and speak the truth no matter how crazy it is. It sounded like a woman screaming, this next one. Steve, my name is Dan McMichael, and you may use my name. I'm 69 years old and do not care who hears my stories. I remember reading the Argosy article about Bigfoot back in the 1960s growing up. I grew up in North Georgia area outside a major city with no childhood encounters other than hearing stories about Bigfoot clear across the U.S. and Washington State. I've been an active listener to your channel for over a year now. After hearing countless stories, it has brought back experiences / memories from my past, which I cannot explain. Back in the mid-70s, working as a park ranger, I was surprised one evening while making rounds through an unoccupied camping area. I had finished checking and was driving out. Stopped to lock the gate, walked to the rear of the truck with only my taillights glowing to close the gate. I had left my mag light, flashlight in cab. That's when the loudest scream I've ever heard came from the tree covered to my right rear. I remember it sounded like a woman screaming. It made all the hairs stand up on my neck, and I had a real creepy feeling all over. It was all I could do to get finished locking the gate and back in the cab. I grabbed my flashlight and shone the area, but saw nothing. Kind of strange. I just passed through this gate about 10 to 15 prior, checking out this area. It's like whatever it was waiting on me to drive out before making his presence known. I never mentioned this to other co-workers for fear of being made fun of. I had several of them that would have never let me live it down. I remember telling my wife, but kept this story in for many years, never relating it to something other than an owl or a bobcat. It never made sense how it could be either one with me driving in and out of an area and then waiting on me to exit the truck and be outside walking behind the truck in the dark, locking the gate when it screamed. Many years later, in '96, while on a camping / fishing trip with a close friend in the mountains surrounding Lake Chelan in Washington State, we walked up on another sign we could not explain. After bushwhacking up a side of one of the vertical cliff areas, attempting to locate a small fishing lake, we discovered on our top bow map we came across a pile of scat which neither of us could explain. Only having a 35mm camera, I thought to take a photo of it with my medic scissors as a gauge. I have vivid memories of us both discussing not wanting to see what had left this pile because of the diameter of the feces. I remember recounting the description later as the size / diameter of a baseball bat. Only being a photo in my 35mm camera, I could not show it to any locals we encountered other than just asking if there were any grizzlies in the area. And we're told they had not been around for decades at that time in '96. We never really discussed any more through the years, but after recent stories you've told, I dug back through my old photos and found the photo I had taken. I've included it in this email, so maybe you could confirm if it's from a grizzly or what animal being it may have come from. Steve, thanks for what you're doing by giving us all an outlet to get answers on not just this topic, but the ongoing pandemic lunacy that we're all experiencing. I still enjoy hiking and hunting when I can, and haven't let my past experiences keep me from exploring and enjoying the woods. Stand strong, my friend. We have your back. Sincerely, Dan McMichael. Okay, man. That's just me looking at a photo. I wasn't there. I'm gonna blow this up. Scissors. Yes, it's just your classic bear turds. You got the seeds in there. Actually, to be honest, the diameter isn't overly huge. I've seen a lot bigger than that from bears. Way bigger. Heard that weird clicking. I got that my tinnitus, my ears ring pretty good, so sometimes I'll hear a noise and it throws it off. But there's a frog cracking up right here. It's making some weird sounds. But anyway, thanks for sending that in, man. And yeah. Solid bear poops for sure. And where was that again? Okay, if that was in Washington State, yeah, there's definitely grizzly bears in Washington State, 110%. And usually the government doesn't admit to anything, and the government can just kiss my ass anyway. We don't need anything from the government. For some weird, that's another thing I was going to say. Sometime, I don't know when, but how did the government end up convincing the herd that we needed them? that we needed them to tell us shit, that we needed them to direct us and control us. That's not how government was formed originally. That wasn't the original plan. The original plan was for us to pick individuals to speak and make great decisions on our better behalf. Somewhere it turned around to them convincing most of the herd that we need them to tell us what's good or bad. We need them to tell us how to live our lives, and we need them to tell us what we can or can't do, and they take most of our money. Weird, isn't it? So what I'm saying is the government can suck it. And zero respect, zero use, and it's all us. It's us. We were us before the government became a thing, and we need to get us back. That's very important. Before I start babbling on that one, let me mark this as red and get on with another one. Thanks again, Matt, for sending that email. This next one is titled Sasquatch Story. I lived in Eastern Oregon for a couple of years. I was staying at my folks' place about 30 minutes west of the capital city, Olympia, until I could find a more permanent place of my own. My folks' house is situated at the dead end of a long gravel road. The only neighbors we had at the time were to the east and south of us. Everything west and north was rough timber land for tens of miles, heavily through the thick underbrush, and it soon began knocking on trees with other large chunks of wood. I sat petrified, unable to see anything, but continued listening. The thing let off more screams, and then way off in the distance, maybe half a mile away, I heard an identical scream. I guess they were communicating to each other. Growing up, I was in the woods constantly, and even my work prior to that was all in the woods. I had never heard anything like this before in my life. I've seen cougar, bear, elk, etc. I cannot think of any animal that makes the same call I heard that night. I was talking with my mom the following morning, and she said she had heard the scream before, and I too later that year heard it again, but from inside the house. The whole event took maybe 5 to 10 minutes, but it is a memory I look back on, and I wonder if it was Sasquatch. I can share the story in its entirety. Thanks, Kevin. Okay, man. You know what I'm going to say, Kevin. You went out of your way to email us. You know what it was, right? You know what it was. I'm having troubles concentrating. I don't know why. Handful of encounters. Hey there, Steve. Hope all is well with you and your family and furry kids as well. I'm Joshua Allen from New Hampshire, and you can use my name. I've always believed in Sasquatch since I was a small boy. I'm 41 now. Started out when we were probably 12 years old, and my buddy came up over a hill overlooking the forest bottom. He claimed to see a Bigfoot walking away and got real excited. Couldn't see it because we weren't at the top where he was. As soon as he acknowledged what he saw, he shook his head and said it was probably moose. Next encounter was when me and my brother and two friends were hunting for small game in the same woods. This time we head into a new area that goes for miles. My brother Adam says, "Look, what's that?" Again, I don't understand where he was looking or at what, but he said he saw Bigfoots dancing. His words, not mine. Well, that day we ended up walking towards what he saw, and we came to many moose in a half dozen pond drinking, etc. I guess we just assumed my brother saw a moose and just thought Bigfoot, but knowing what I know now, I'm not so sure. There's a few smaller baby moose as well, so possibly Sasquatch might have been hunting moose, I don't know. Let's move to when I was around 20 years old. Me and my new girlfriend were going out for a ride on the longest back road in Vermont, I think. I swear it's like 10 miles or more, and this road seems to go on forever. LOL. Well, it was around 2 a.m. We drove the roads at this hour all the times because we always had a good chance to see some type of animal. This time we weren't prepared for what we saw. Coming up the road in our headlights lit up a creature that was directly in the middle of the road. It was jet black. To say we were scared shitless was an understatement. This creature kept walking very slow, creeping circles, keeping its eyes on us the whole time. It was so dark, even with the headlights, I couldn't tell what I was looking at, but I know it could get inside the car if it wanted to. This must have circled in front of the car for 3 straight minutes, almost daring us to come out. We were shaking. Couldn't believe this thing. We tried flashlights, a beeping horn, and nothing had any effect on this thing. His forearms were thick and massive and turned inward, almost like when you see a cartoon of a bulldog. Hard to explain, but so strange. Those classic forearms of a bear, too. Yeah, 100% hearing something weird down there. Whoa, not a doubt about it. Alright, hearing voices up on the road. I keep getting a very weird feeling like we need to leave. Something told me this thing could probably rip the door off the car if it wanted to. Eventually it walked slowly down the bank, taking its time. I swear it walked like King Kong, even on all fours. We got home and I googled wolverines, and that was the closest thing I could find to what we saw. Maybe a month ago, someone in Florida reported seeing a Bigfoot or dogman with this same white stripe down his back. I also heard a few reports of seeing very similar things to what I saw. I'm starting to think it was a small juvenile dogman, maybe. It's funny, I remember asking the biologist what would be in Vermont between a wolverine or a werewolf. He actually surprised me when he said you would actually see a werewolf before seeing a wolverine in Vermont. LOL. I'm gonna continue this in a few minutes. Okay, across the river. A couple kids came down, a couple adults. I gotta walk down about, I don't know, 300 yards to get down from a lock gate. So I guess my spidey senses were on point today anyway. So where did I leave off? I gotta get this shared, and then I'm gonna try to get these SD cards chained. And if the battery's loose in that camera from when the goats knocked it over and broke it the first day I had it. So possibly the battery, I don't know if they finished up on those prints right there. Those are solid, heavy prints and not gravel. Interesting, but not really interesting in a way, because you guys have heard the voices that have been recorded out of this side of the river, out of this timber, and you've seen the things being thrown at me during the fall, winter. Now, we'll start this again. To say we were scared shitless was an understatement. This creature kept walking very slow, creeping circles, keeping its eyes on us the whole time. It was so dark, even with the headlights, I couldn't tell what I was looking at, but I know it could get inside the car if it wanted to. That's a creepy realization for anyone. This must have circled in front of the car for 3 straight minutes, almost daring us to come out. We were shaking and couldn't believe this thing. We tried flashing lights, beeping horn, and nothing had any effect on this thing. His forearms were thick and massive and turned inward, almost like when you see a cartoon of a bulldog. Like I said, okay, yeah, this like a bear. Eventually it walked slowly down the bank, taking its time. I swear it walked like King Kong, even on all fours. We got home and I googled wolverines, and that was the closest thing I could find to what we saw. But maybe a month ago, someone in Florida reported seeing a Bigfoot or dogman with this same white stripe down his back. Also heard of a few reports of seeing very similar things to what I saw. I'm starting to think it was a small juvenile dogman, maybe. It's funny, I remember asking the biologist what would be in Vermont between a wolverine or a werewolf, and he actually surprised me when he said you'd actually see a werewolf. You would actually see a werewolf before seeing a wolverine in Vermont, LOL. Moving on. Yes, Steve, over the years I've had a ton of experience, all different, and never had a face-to-face because it wasn't visible. Thought we will get to that next email. I want to explain one more encounter that me and the same girlfriend had on the same back road, I believe, miles up from that spot. We found a place to pull over so we could smoke a joint. Yes, around 3 a.m. again. And this was one of the single most scariest nights of my life, hands down. We got out of the car, stood there, and before we could even light the spliff, a sound came from the woods above the car. We were parked on the road, and above us was a creepy old fence blocking some old logging road that went into deep woods. We heard a noise, like something stepping on a huge branch. The snap was so loud it echoed through the surrounding forest. Next thing we know was something from, I don't know, 200 yards, was barreling ass towards our position. Not only could we hear bipedal loud running stomps coming our way, but we could clear as day hear trees left and right getting bulldozed over and smashing, cracking, and even some trees exploding. It was moving so fast towards us, and we both froze in fear. before we could even think, to our right, another started towards us. Just like the first one, it was hauling ass like a freight train, knocking live and dead trees over in the process. By this time I said, we need to go now. We run to the car, and as soon as we started, another from the left started running towards us as well. Hearing 3 rhinos knocking trees down coming in at 30 miles per hour is terrifying. We got to the car, we were so scared. Fumbled with the lock, getting the doors open. As soon as we closed the doors and were in, the car had stopped. I imagine they were right at the tree line by then. God, I've never been so scared before that night. I don't know if they were hunting and we messed that up, but I still think about this all the time because I can't even put into words how terrifying it was. It was unreal. 10 years later, I tried talking to my ex about what we saw and heard that summer, and she didn't want to talk about it. My buddy that saw the Bigfoot when we were kids, he also doesn't want to talk about it. That said, it was probably a moose, and then laughs on cue. I don't believe him. Unfortunately, I can't talk to my brother about what he saw because he passed away last year. Sorry to hear that, man. Sorry to hear that. He had a lot of health problems due to making bad choices, and his liver and organs slowly shut down. But me and him spent every day in the woods. We grew up out there hunting, fishing, and whatever kids do, we did it. So all these encounters were just the older ones, Steve. I will email again with some of the insane encounters I've had in the last 45 years. Now that I'm trying to learn all I can on Sasquatch, I now believe when people say you were tagged. I truly feel after having an encounter, we'll probably always have them happen on occasion. Thank you for now, Steve. Tried my best with the punctuation. Here's my token helicopter. Love what you're doing and the platform you created. Been watching since before your How to Hunt Hunting channel and now your Sasquatch Story channel. Every day I sit down and watch and listen and slowly putting the pieces together from hearing everyone's stories. Thanks again for what you do. Stay safe out there, man. Joshua from New Hampshire. Appreciate you, man. Absolutely appreciate you. That is a big helicopter going directly right over top of me. Like it looks like a double rotor apartment sitting on its side from here. Right square over top. Crazy. Imagine if all of a sudden I got beamed up. I don't know how long I've been doing this, but we've got to get out. I just got a text that my custom air filter and oil is in. I got to do a change in my truck today, as well as numerous other shit. Here's a short one. What's this? Mark, this is red. Hi, Steve. The runner's story with the deer remind me of my first maybe meeting with the Sabe. I was wondering if Sabe can sort of rendered us unaware of the surroundings by putting a movie that we think we are living in our head. My story is one I think I was kidnapped for a short while, in my head or maybe for real. I was reeling in a monstrous pike at 20 pounds plus. I was 6 and I was yelling to my dad only 30 feet away to come help me, and even be able to see me from where he was. My family were loading the van. The odd thing is, all this time, my family were trying to find me. They couldn't find me. Like I said, I was screaming for my dad all that time, and they were screaming too. We never heard each other. I always couldn't understand that moment, unless I wasn't at that place anymore. That would explain it. So, I really wonder if I wasn't taken for a while. My mother, around that time, was trying to make my dad understand that once she saw, while in the cabin, a big face looking in the door window. My father never believed her. He said it was a bear. My mom kept saying, no, it wasn't a bear. But I guess he did believe her when after a while, I think it was a year after, he saw an undressed furry man while berry picking. I did send that story when I stumbled on your account. Again, sorry for the writing. English is not my first language. Have a nice one. All right, man. Appreciate that. I don't know if your parents are still alive. If they are, maybe possibly send them this video, all right? and let them have a go at it, and then see if maybe we want to share more detail what they saw. And for every single other person whose story I read here, if you have people who are involved with your encounter, they don't want to talk about it, like I think we just had an email before, ex-girlfriend and friend didn't want to talk about it, send them this video, and maybe they will possibly explore it a little more courage to share it, right? Anyway, in case you missed in the beginning, don't forget what the scientists have come up with and proven is these Sasquatch beings are original modern human female mixed intentionally mixed with an animal, and that animal is a very large predator. It's extinct. They're just trying to figure out which one. Okay? Which subspecies was it originally used to tamper with the DNA intentionally 15,000 years ago? What an interesting puzzle this is becoming, right? A lot of people have already figured out this puzzle to a point, and a lot of people haven't, and a lot of people don't want to acknowledge. They just don't. It's far easier to be obsessed with getting footprints or a thermal video or an audio recording, or it's far more easier to collect a paycheck and keep telling the herd that it's just an unacknowledged monkey or gorilla. That's all it is. They nest, and they migrate, and they rut. Anyway, I will be back with more. I'm not going to stop, and I cannot wait for our trusted friends to compile all their information in one great big chunk of easily delivered goods for all of you. What a generous thing and brave thing these individuals are doing, right? But anyway, I'm going to go see if I can't get an SD card out of the camera, switch it out, and I will show you what is on the cameras here. I don't have a clue yet. This is the first time I checked it. And we'll see what kind of life there has been, because there's no sign. There's no droppings. It's really weird. And if there is nothing on these cameras, something is not normal. At all. At all. We'll see what comes. I'll be back shortly.